By 1944, the war had changed. What once felt like an unstoppable advance had turned into a desperate defense. I remember the summer heat burning down on us as we dug in, waiting for the inevitable. The Soviets were pushing hard on the Eastern Front, and we, the Waffen-SS, were tasked with holding our position. It was clear to us that we were outnumbered. The Red Army seemed endless, wave after wave crashing against us. But retreat wasn't an option. Orders were orders. I had been with my unit for years, seeing things I wished I could forget, but this was different. There was a tension in the air that none of us could shake. We had heard the stories from the other units what the Russians were doing to captured men, how they showed no mercy. It fueled our resolve, but it also filled us with dread. Our position was fortified, but the ground was soft from the recent rains, turning our trenches into muddy pits. The stench of sweat, dirt, and fear was suffocating. At night, we'd listen to the distant rumble of artillery, knowing it would soon move closer. Some men smoked to calm their nerves, others stared blankly ahead, lost in thought. I tried to focus on the task at hand, keeping my rifle clean, checking my gear, anything to keep my mind from wandering. The attack came at dawn, the sky barely lightening before the first shells hit. Explosions rocked the ground, sending dirt and debris flying everywhere. I threw myself into the trench as the ground shook, the roar of the bombardment deafening. The air was thick with smoke and dust, making it hard to breathe. When the shelling finally stopped, it was replaced by the sound of Russian tanks, rolling towards us. The order was given to hold the line. We braced ourselves as the first wave of Soviet infantry approached. The battle was fierce, close quarters, and brutal. I could hear the screams of the wounded, the crack of gunfire, and the thunder of artillery in the distance. Every shot I fired felt like a lifeline, but there were too many of them. For every Russian that fell, 2 more took his place. Hours passed like minutes, and the fighting never stopped. At one point, I found myself in hand-to-hand combat with a Soviet soldier. We grappled in the mud, fighting for survival. It was primal, desperate. In the end, I prevailed. But the look in his eyes before he died haunted me. He was young, no older than me, just a soldier like any of us, fighting for his country. By nightfall, the battlefield was a wasteland. Bodies lay strewn across the ground, and the smell of death was everywhere. We had held the line, but barely. Our losses were heavy, and we knew the Russians would come again. There was no rest, no relief. I couldn't help but think of home, of the life I left behind, and wondered if I'd ever see it again. The war wasn't over, but something had shifted. We had lost the momentum. Now, it was just about surviving, holding on until the next order came. But deep down, I knew that things would never be the same. The Russians were too strong, too determined, and we were running out of time.